hero hits a call to adventure to embark on a research degree. And he feels it was part of my life, my career, then it became an obsession. There are milestones along the way, identifying a research topic, developing conceptual, theoretical, and methodical frameworks, and designing the research. And the hero begins to understand that the quest is both a journey and a destination. The hero embarks on the journey. It was like driving on a untarred rocky surface with potholes. It was a massive learning journey. Not far long, he faced the first threshold, submitting draft work for comments or presenting work in progress as a PhD, at a PhD weekend, receiving feedback, revising and reworking, and ultimately submission of the proposal for examination. He is pulled in different directions and experiences shifting targets. He persists and feels pride that he has crossed the first threshold, but he also admits to fear and doubt. Do I have anything new to say? Do I have anything to say at all? At first, I knew how much I know. Then I learned how little I know. Once passed, then the second adventure now is when he had submitted and passed the stage of a proposal. The hero meets allies and enemies. I stood on my own, but I got help from others, my supervisor, the PhDs. He develops his disciplinary knowledge and begins his fieldwork. He grapples with the amount of complexity of the work ahead. It was like a giant puzzle. I was working in structure, then I had to abandon the structure. He may have help, but he has to face the test himself. He toils against the shortcomings of peers and criticism of supervisors. As the hero passes through these tests, acquiring knowledge of ethical conduct and professional responsibility, reading widely, he reaches the innermost cave, writing the thesis. And a dangerous place where he has to face a ferocious enemy, anxiety and self-doubt. Do I have control? Have I lost control? He undergoes emotional swings and his confidence seesaws. The hero pauses at the entrance of the cave to prepare and summon strength. I had a sore arm, sore neck, sore back. And in the cave, the hero faces the ordeal. I felt fear, insecurity. The intimidation was overwhelming. He faces his greatest fear, the possibility of death, feeling stuck, doubtful, and paralyzed for periods of time, contemplating defeat and dropout. But he persists and is tested in the battle with his enemy. It was pure hell. It was a massive learning experience. This is where the hero's chances of succeeding in the quest appear bleak. Stretch me, bend me, don't break me. We experience the brink of death moment with the hero. He mentions, I had no time to bleed. It was pure hell and determination. But the hero returns from near death. Having survived near defeat and overcome obstacles, the hero takes possession of the treasure, the ability to conduct original research, to add to the understanding of the discipline or field, to write a thesis and submit it for examination. The hero must face one last trial. He receives examiner's reports. Revisions and corrections may require. He must now communicate his knowledge to others through teaching and research. His supervisor wants him to publish his research. His colleagues want him to ease their load. His family calls him back to the life he left when he started his travels. The enemy cries one last time to defeat the hero. For the hero, it is the final test of whether he has learned the lesson of the ordeal. The hero wins and is resurrected. Wow, I can write. I achieved things I could never do before. I enjoyed the ride. He is transformed by his final lesson and is able to return to the ordinary world with new insight. Joining a community of academics requires perspective, production, vision. The hero returned with a lesson or a potion or medicine from the spatial world. It opens the world of critical thinking. The moral of the story is you have to be strategic. And if one may frankly ask, is there anyone or are there any of the group that have felt the same through their journey? Is this unique to this individual that expressed his sentiments to the researcher? Do you see yourself somewhere in the discussion? And I'd like to open the floor to anyone who would want to say something. Does the story resonate with your experiences?
I hate long silences, but I would like to say that a lot of my students have expressed these kinds of feelings to me during the process. So I'm sure of the 55 attendees here, many of them actually have. It would be nice to you for people to personally express how they felt.
Yeah, because if we can do that, then the discussion will become lively and we can connect things, because these sessions are more like chats, because we actually need to talk about our experiences and to build our theoretical understandings based on, you know, what we've experienced.
I have experienced all what you've just mentioned, Buhle. It's exactly this, like this. It's not an easy journey, but almost all the facts that you are raising, it's what I have experienced in my PhD journey.
And I can see that Handsome is saying the journey is still new. So we're not here to scare you, but just I think you are at an advantage, because we are here sharing our experiences before you can even start the journey. And true, the journey is not an easy one, but the following slide is going to be very interesting, because I felt like I'm going to share these slides because no offense, Prophet, had I read this article before, there are so many things I would have done differently, because it kind of like tells you why you are experiencing, or why you experienced all the things that you experienced during your PhD journey. And according to Yiljogi, I don't know whether I'm calling this correctly, because this is Japanese, I think. So the journey, how you perceive the journey really matters. Where am I still? No? Okay. Right, you have the first type of a narrative that he actually captured from the participants, that some would regard the journey as scholarship and intellectual wisdom, which is a good thing, that their dissertation will make a significant contribution to knowledge, which is also a good thing. Their heroism involves living up to a high standard of scholarship, toiling against the deficiencies and criticism of supervisors and peers, and undergoing emotional swings as they complete trials and tests. According to Badenhorst, students on this path are often stuck for long periods, sometimes paralyzed by the task they have set themselves. Ultimately, however, they succeed. So apparently, what tends to be something very good, putting your standards, setting your standards high, tend to be a problem as well as a PhD student, which just doesn't justify that you must have work at a mediocre standard. But this is just to say that whatever standard that you set to yourself, be realistic. Somebody said, for you to be a resilient PhD student, you have to make realism a virtue, because that will allow you to have steady reasonable, but excellent progress. Unlike in a situation where you really feel, I really need to make a significant contribution of knowledge. And then the tragic narrative is the kind of narrative that we all do not want. Worst fears came true. That is what the participants said. Students live in fear that they will be exposed as inferior and unworthy. Students who construct a tragic narrative often fail to complete the degree because they are convinced that they are not good enough to undertake research at a high level. They despair, they avoid their supervisor. Their supervisor is regarded as a prison gardener, as a prison guarder or prison warder. They feel guilty and ultimately either withdraw or rationalize their failure to complete the degree. And further, Ilke says they are under pressure because the families do know that they've started a PhD journey. And wherever they go in public, people ask, even at work, people ask, how far have you gone with your journey? And it ends up that leaving your PhD alone, deregistering is the most easy way of getting out of trouble. And then Kesa is doing.
Can I comment on something, Maud?
Yes, bro.
Just put up that previous slide.
This one or the next one?
Next one, that one. That top line, is so interesting. Students live in fear that they will be exposed as inferior and unworthy. What's amazing is that the most gifted, most able students often live exactly like that. It's something I've come across repeatedly. It's not only actually in research and PhDs, but even in my clinical trainees, both undergraduate and postgraduate students. The ones that you would entrust your life to as the best doctors are the ones who continually confide in you their sense that they're not good enough for the job. So it is a very, very, very common feeling among high achievers. And it really is something one has to work on, seeing through it and seeing actually just how unreasonable that fear is and learning to overcome it and to develop that self-confidence.
Yeah, and it's vice versa. It's usually students who struggle will tend to overestimate their performance. And that is why when you find a student complaining about mark allocation, it is quite rare that a high achiever ever complains. You will find that someone who really is struggling, and even the mark that was allocated was just allocated, in fairness of respecting human dignity instead of a 0, then the student but would fight and would not understand. And some people have studied the effect, and Kruger and Dunning have done that, and they attributed it to the fact that in most instances that will happen because either students are not sure of the task demands and sometimes not sure of the strategies, and sometimes they are not sure of how good they are or of how bad they are. So it's a combination of those three things that actually constitute their metacognitive understanding of themselves. And then there is another approach, which is the business-like narrative. These people believe that the thesis is done by doing it. So the student simply gets on with the job. The dissertation holds no mythical qualities for these students. It is something to be understood and constructed. It is hard work, but these students have no fear of failure. Perseverance is the key to success, and the student has a close working relationship with the supervisor. These students focus on a goal and are not usually sidetracked by emotional or self-esteem issues. And it is very interesting, the last sentence, because this is a little bit rare that you find people that are emotionally immune, that just do not have emotional attachments. So these kinds of students tend to do well because they attach no emotions to what they are doing. They just do the work. And whether the report comes back saying that they've done badly, it's still no emotions. The report comes back saying you've done well, no emotions. They just do the work. They are so technical that they just attach to the work and just work. But what I was observed is that the working relationship with their supervisors, 9 out of 10 tends to be very excellent. And then there's the panel narrative, which is the narrative that expresses suffering and pain. So these students feel that PhD is just punishment and suffering is at its core. They are motivated only by the need to complete the degree, because it's either it's a job requirement or it's a promotion requirement. The thesis is interpreted as a nuisance, and the supervisor as a prison guard does the minimum amount of work, suffering all the while. The university rules are seen as petty and obstructive. The supervisor doesn't understand the student and the effort seems pointless. Completing the thesis, even at minimal standards, means release from prison. So these are the students that, and even at undergrad, we have students that would like aim for a 50 and that's it. So this is a kind of a PhD journey that is the kind of a journey wherein the student just does bare minimal literature review. It would be sent 5 times back to the student with one comment that please extend your search. Again, the same comment, please extend your search, until 10 times, 3 months, 6 months down the line, the literature review is not coming together because the student is just doing bare minimal. Right, and then the last factor in the presentation is that how to develop resilience as a PhD student. So indeed, we understand that resilience is a disposition, but it can't be practiced intentionally.
Hello, Maud. You seem to have disappeared. I hope she hasn't been load shedded.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's 4 o'clock, so it may well be load shedding.
Yeah, she did say she was going into the office, so maybe we just give her 2 minutes so that the generator can kick in at the office, if that's where it is.
It could be the other way around. I think load shedding may be stopping there. And as you know, when they change over from the generator back to ESCOM, the Wi-Fi goes down for a few minutes while it reboots.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it catches you in both directions.
Yeah. Zara has got a hand up. Would you like to speak to your question, Zara, while we wait for Maud to return?
I was just sharing my experience that I started my field work about 2.5 weeks ago. Very excited, had all my equipment and ready, and I fractured my arm. And so I mean, for 1 or 2 days, I was very disappointed and disheartened, and I thought, how am I going to continue? And this today's session has actually come very timely, because really I have my right arm in a cast for the next 6 weeks. And I'm wondering how I'm going to keep going. But so, lots of pointers today. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's very unfortunate. It's good that you sound strong. I'm trying to recall one of the sayings that I think came from Nelson Mandela, where he said, it's not the number of times you fall, it's how you pick yourself up afterwards. And I think that is what resilience is. And I think, Zara, you are talking to that at the moment. While we were, okay, Adekunle, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. The first time I heard about this presentation, I was so excited. I think she was practically speaking for me. Now, this is the thing. Though I am quite, should I say, young, for I'm still on the protocol part and I've not yet completed. But, I got a bit discouraged that I was actually speaking with my wife that I think I have to change the university because, like 2 universities were kind of interested in my topic, UKZN and UCT. Now, the thing is that because I did my MPH at UKZN, I said, oh, let me just continue because I'm kind of familiar with those there. I mean, the lecturers there. So that was why I have to continue at UKZN. But now, this is the thing. I got a bit discouraged because I've, to some extent, considered myself brilliant. I have, reviewed people's research before, but even just at the introductory level, the introduction part, my supervisor will be saying things like, are you sure you know what you're doing? Are you sure those comments really got to me that I was considering to change the university. My wife was now actually advising that, well, but if I get to the other university and the lecturer is even worse, I mean, the supervisor is worse than this kind. I'm not saying that my supervisor is bad, but I'm just saying that words like, do you know what you're doing? Do you actually, those, they are very, very discouraging, really. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, because of this lecture, I have gained a lot, especially when she was saying something about you just take the report, you take the criticism, be it good or bad, you just take it with good spirit and move on. It has really re-energized me, and I think I am going to put more effort and continue with my program. Thank you.
That is really such refreshing and wonderful news for us to hear the positive side of your experience with our talks, but very sad to hear that you've had an uncomfortable experience with supervision. And I don't know if, I think of the people that are on this meeting with us now, there might be supervisors. We have run one supervisor's course this year, and we will be doing them several times in the future. And we address things like that, like what you've just mentioned, Adekunle, about how to not break the spirit of people, how to rather nurture the growth of enthusiasm, to keep the spirit going. So thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Connie.
Yeah. Maud has just sent me a WhatsApp to say that she's been kicked out and she's battling to get back in. So I think we'll just keep talking until she can come back. I've sent her a message saying we're holding discussions until she can come back. So who else has had some experiences? I think that this time of the year, resilience is something we've got to consciously think about. I mean, even me as a supervisor, just as somebody who just has a job, I just feel that I need to find some resilience right now. It's the end of the year, too much happening, trying to finish, don't want to carry as much of the stuff into the new year, planning for the new year. Resilience is just part of life. It's not only in the PhD study, but I think particularly in the PhD. Sunday, your faces come up on our screen. Is there something that you'd like to share? Sunday or Dr. Wabari? Richard, would you like to come in here with some general comments about resilience?
Yes, perhaps just one thing to point out is one could argue that this afternoon has been very negative. But the important thing is it's actually a positive message that Maud is putting across. What she is saying is that we often, go through periods of great difficulty that can actually seem to extend for quite a long time. And many of our participants this afternoon are actively affirming that, agreeing with that, even giving us their own examples. But the bottom line is actually a positive one. We should not go away negative from this. What we are saying is it can and does and usually will improve. Resilience is the thing that gets us through that to that point so that we don't give up too soon. And resilience also actually helps to make it quicker and easier to get to that point of breakthrough where things actually start to look a whole lot better, and the joy and the pleasure of studying and doing a PhD actually manifests itself. So yes, I guess everybody is confirming that the PhD journey can be very hard at times, but take it from me, you do reach a point where suddenly it starts to make sense. Suddenly you see things that are working. Suddenly you have that sense of identification with the field, what I call the we moment. You start to say, we believe. In other words, we and everybody else who's an authority in the field believes. And that's actually a very, very exciting and very rewarding moment. When you start to see that you are achieving competence. Don't know if you'd like to comment on that, Connie. And
I
maybe...
see Maud is back. So maybe we can get back to Maud. Yeah.
Good. Maud, over to you.
Thank you, Prof. When load shedding stopped, then all of a sudden there were issues.
We all experience load shedding at time all the time. So I think we're all very understanding. Don't panic about it.
Right, so we're almost done in any case. So how to develop resilience as a PhD student? It is a disposition, we agree. But then if you know that it has elements, and as you continue with your journey, you can just have these 5 panels and you keep on ticking and checking if, am I still in control of my plan? Am I still in control of the learning environment? I've received my feedback. Am I calm? Am I composed? Can I work on it now? And am I still committed? Am I still persistent? Because at some stage you get to be numb when you're just working far too hard, and you tend to be doing things routinely because you told yourself that between 7 and 9 I'm sitting down and engaging with my PhD. You do it even if on the days when you are not productive. And sometimes you have other issues in your life and you tend to focus on them and they're affecting your commitment. You gotta stay in a zone where you are realistic about everything that happens. And planning and control and taking charge of the learning environment seems to be, for a PhD student in particular, seem to be the two that are more crucial than anything else. And again, working on yourself to be composed, to be calm is also important, because the relationship with the supervisor or supervisors is key in a research. Because I think one of the writers calls pedagogy in supervision, he calls it chaotic pedagogy, because there is so much that happens and most of it is unplanned. Because when a supervisor gives a feedback, the feedback is fair and it is meant to make you grow. But if you had, as a student, put so much effort and you are failing to calibrate your own efforts, and you look at it and you feel like, the supervisor is out to discourage me, there is no way that there's going to be progress. But if you are composed, calm, committed, then you end up turning even the minus things to be very positive. And if you look at the participant that expressed all the hardships that they actually met along the way during their journey, and it was good that there was a student that had finished and had a high caliber research. So the final word the student says, just be strategic. And if you unpack that, it means you must be perceptive, future-oriented, open-minded, proactive, because at some point you have to sit, read, and write, no matter what. And there are moments when you plan and you really find that, you know, my study is not going to go anywhere because I need funding, then that's what you need to focus on at that particular time. My funding won't get anywhere because I need training, be it statistical analysis, or maybe you are a qualitative researcher, you want to jump to quantitative, or quantitative vice versa. You need some training, and you either attend doctoral academies, you attend workshops. So those are the parts, that's part of planning, and that's part of taking charge of your learning, because the supervisor is there as a guide and not the owner of the study. And in actual fact, the students should lead, and the supervisor should just guide and only takes over when it is necessary. And one cannot emphasize how important is the self in learning, because the self determines, it sieves everything. For something to be regarded as insult, it takes the self. You use your life experiences, and then you realize, in my life, I have never received a script that is read all over. Therefore, it's an insult to your intelligence. And you forget that you're venturing into a realm you've never been before. So those are some of the things that, and again, you need to be professionally oriented, because if you tend to personalize everything, then nothing will come out of your relationship with your supervisor. And you must understand that a PhD is so very real. So you have to be kind of sober-minded, realistic about things, and it does take time, but you just have to plan and to know that your progress versus what you have planned is in accordance. If it's behind, then you try and make sure that you work even harder to make sure that it works. And my final word is that even though we understand that resilience is a disposition, one can acquire it through just intentionally checking whether you still following your plan. Are you determined to follow your plan? Are you controlling your learning, your strategies? Are you calm? Are you being your truth? Are you being true to yourself? Are you committed? Are you persistent? Are you passionate? Have you enough network? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maud. There's a comment that came up, says, can we define resilience like positive mindset, even though plans are not working as we wish? Would you like to comment on that, Maud?
Yes, because resilience, the only time that we know that someone is resilient is when someone is facing something that is not positive. There are adversities on your way. Yes, you may be resilient in terms of knowing where you are going and working hard towards what you are doing. But the only time that we really note that you're resilient is when your plan has been tampered with, something is challenging you, and you are able, it's the ability to achieve even if you have adversities. So your definition, I think it is true that you can achieve resilience through your mindset. You can achieve it again through your actions, because the mind is good at driving the actions. and the actions make everything to materialize, to be seen, to be demonstrated, then we know that you are resilient.
Would anybody like to make any more comments about resilience, about your feelings of resilience? I think that resilience also is broader on how to achieve it. One is surround yourself by other people who are resilient. If you've identified resilience, sit with it. And secondly, resilience is bigger than just a mindset. It's your physical health. It's making sure you get enough exercise. It's positive mindset, like you said. It's balance life and work. All those kinds of things actually build towards a healthy resilience. Elliot, you've got a hand up.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. I just want to make a comment. I believe that life is full of challenges or obstacles. That is what I learned when I was doing psychology. And we were also doing some practicals, and there was a young boy who was playing violin. But you know, looking at the strategies that this young man was using, was that you know, what we learned from that practical is that we need to know that life is full of challenges, and our role is to try and overcome the challenges, no matter what. And if you can't solve or go through or solve that problem, you may even develop strategies of bypassing the challenge or the problem or the obstacle and proceed with your journey. So life is always full of obstacles, and we need to overcome those obstacles and develop strategies. And then you have just mentioned that being surrounded by people with resilience. I remember when I was in a secondary school, we had a teacher who was very good in Afrikaans. You know, very, very good. He was coming from Free State. You know, the Sothos speak a lot of Afrikaans. So he was very good. But when he gave us a test, he came with our exercise books, and he told us that he was very unhappy because we all failed his test. And then when we started to become worried, he told us that we mustn't worry, and you mustn't take this as a problem. You must take this experience as a challenge. And then what we said, the whole class started to repeat his words, saying, we take it as a challenge. And I think, and he even told us that his first assignment at UNISA, he got 16%. He was doing history, and he liked history, and he taught us history, and he taught us very well. But he told us that he got 16%, and he took it as a challenge. And then from there, we all became positive, and whatever problem that came across, we took it as a challenge. That's the attitude that we developed. I think with doing the PhD, there are so many challenges. Some of them you feel, you may be feel hurt, get all types of feelings. But as long as you stick to your vision as to what is it that you really want to achieve, and you see all these obstacles as challenges that you can be able to overcome. Because if you say it's a problem, that may give the impression that it's something that may never be resolved. But it's a challenge. A challenge you can try by all means to overcome the challenge. So that is what I think is almost similar to resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. Those are very wise words indeed. And like Richard said further up in the chat, this too shall pass. There are times when that's absolutely appropriate, and there are other times when this is a challenge and I have to deal with it, and that is also appropriate. Maud?
I think Elliot is making a very good point, because really, if we live our lives through stories, it's stories that we share that actually makes us or break us. And it's a very good illustration that it gives, that somebody tells you, I was at where you at some point, but look at me today. So that is usually, that builds resilience, and you tend to be realistic in your view and understand that, okay, I may expect A, B, and C, and when that happens, I should not be discouraged. And if anyone, if you've got a friend who's studying either a master's or a PhD, you always tell them you are definitely going to cry one night. And when they cry, they send you a text, I cried today, and then you send them, welcome to the party. And you're not being cruel. It's something that you've spoken to them about. And after some time, you really talk about it and you laugh about it. So yeah, those are the real experiences of PhD students.
Yeah. Are there any other comments or questions today? Okay, well, we've got almost to our hour, and I've seen that this is a big coincidence. I've got a speaker next week, Johan Jansen van Vrieren, and many of you have heard him speak before. And he is speaking on imposter syndrome and the Dunning-Kruger Valley of Despair. So it moves on very nicely from this talk. Maud, I'd like to thank you for stepping in and doing this talk. It clearly has meant a lot to many people. And next week, we'll be continuing on the same vein. And next week is the last of the doctoral academies for this year. So we'll be shutting down in the new year, and the new year we've got a good plan going ahead with both these kinds of talks that are supportive, as well as other talks that are more about how to do things. So without any further chatting, taking up your time, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Thank you, Maud, for being here. Thanks, Richard, for co-hosting, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye now.
And
Hi
thank
all,
you
thank
very
you.
much.
Bye-bye, everybody.